Hi guys, it's Dre2584. Just a couple months ago, I started to really get myself into Major League Sports. So I thought of a clever idea for a video for all the football fans out there. There are 32 teams in the National Football League, and only one of them can be the NFL champion per year. That is, whoever wins the Super Bowl. But I came up with a point system that'll crown one of those teams as the NFL champion for each decade. In this video, I'll look at the 2010s. Each team will be rewarded points every year depending on how far they made it in the postseason. I've been raised as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, as you can see on my hoodie, since I live around Philly. I hope they can end with a good score. So this is how the point system is going to work. You can see how many points the team will be rewarded for the year depending on how much progress they have made for the season. I'm going to show the statistics for the 2010 season to help you guys out, mostly for those who are less familiar with how football works. In the 2010s, how it worked was that the winner of each of the 4 divisions in both conferences made the top 4 spots for the season. The top 2 makes it straight to the quarterfinals or the divisional round. But the higher the 2 who got second in their division, or 5th and 6th in the conference, still go to the wildcard round, the round before the divisional or quarterfinals. However, the 4 teams that got 7th or 8th in their conference will earn 1 point for the year in my system, despite not qualifying for the playoffs. Then for the postseason bracket, your team's yearly score doubles for each level you make it to, starting with just 2 for the losers in the wildcard round. Ultimately, the winner of the Super Bowl wins the grand prize of 32 points. By the way, I got this and the thing I showed you before this from the Wikipedia article. So the first Super Bowl winner of the 2010s decade were the Green Bay Packers, which is visibly seen before on the postseason bracket. My dad's stepfather probably hates that team because he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and in case you can't tell, they beat them in the Super Bowl that season. You may think I'm crazy for saying this, but I just learned from him that his cousin used to play on the Steelers. That makes it pretty obvious why he roots for them. Now here's the points for the 2011 season. The next year, the New York Giants ended up winning the Super Bowl, making it the second year in a row the team that was 6th place in their conference still won the ultimate prize. What's funny is that it was either this season or the one before that, but my mom asked me whether I liked the Eagles or the Giants. While I'm guessing we had a game with both teams on, I said the Giants because I wasn't even thinking and I picked randomly. So then she literally told me to get out of the house. I was only 5 or 6 years old at the time, by the way. Well, it's a good thing it at least wasn't the Dallas Cowboys, because that would have been worse. So here is the current top 10 for the decade. Green Bay still holds the number 1 spot. The column all the way on the right describes how many places the team went up or down for the previous season. If I repeated any numbers in the ranking column, it's because there was a tie in the number of points. Now it's time for the 2012 season. One of these teams has changed their name from the one you can see down below. The Washington Redskins have changed their name to the Commanders in the 2020s, but that's who they were back in the day. Anyways, the Ravens won the Super Bowl, and they take the current lead for the 2010s decade. And no team stayed in the same place from the previous season. By the way, there's actually a 3-way tie for 10th place. In addition to the Broncos, the Seahawks and the Texans also have 8 points, but I just had to pick one randomly. They even all got that current score the same way. If you've noticed before, they had 4 points before, and they earned another 4 by making it to the divisional round along with the Packers. For the 2013 season, the Seahawks won their first Super Bowl title by crushing the Broncos, multiplying their total score by 5. and moving them all the way from a 10th place tie to 3rd place overall. They almost got a back-to-back victory, but something unbelievable happened the next season. As I was saying, the Seahawks made it to the Super Bowl again, but this time they lost to the New York Patriots. But the way they lost was crushing for any Seahawks fan. They were behind by 4 with just a minute left in the fourth quarter, and they were right by their end goal after someone caught a pass. They were losing 24-28, so they needed this touchdown to win. Eventually, they were on second down with 20 seconds remaining. The team was under so much pressure, so they decided to pass the ball at the 1-yard line, and then everyone heard this. Passes intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal. Yep, that's exactly what it sounds like. The ball was picked off by the Patriots, making them win inevitably. I can only imagine the pain and frustration from everyone on the team and anyone in Seattle watching this Super Bowl. The Seahawks still moved up to second place overall for being National Conference champions, but they would have been in first if they didn't make that interception. Instead, the Patriots have taken the lead. What's interesting, though, is how the order of first through fourth place was literally reversed from the previous season, and each team from the top 4 currently were actually one level back in the postseason for each place. In the 2015 season, the Denver Broncos won the first Super Bowl of the decade against the Carolina Panthers, which makes their score go from the 20s to the 60s in 1 year. This means they now tie second place with the Seahawks, and the Panthers make their first top 10 appearance from their championship win. In the 2016 season, the Patriots won the Super Bowl once again, and like 2 years before this, the way they won was unreal, and it was absolutely devastating for the Falcons and their fans. Some may argue it was even worse than what happened to the Seahawks 2 Super Bowls before this one. In the third quarter, the Falcons were in the lead by 25 points. The score was 28-3. Do you guys see where this is going? The Patriots had a massive comeback and tied the game up 28-28, making them go into overtime. Then the Patriots won on a touchdown. How insane is that? What makes this even worse for the Falcons is that this would have been the first Super Bowl they ever won. And they still have yet to win that title. The Patriots' second Super Bowl win of the decade puts them at over 100 points already with a huge lead. They wanted to win a second game in a row and the third one of the decade the next year, but that wasn't going to happen. Yep, here it comes, Philly fans. The year that you were waiting for is coming up right now. Here it is. This was when the Eagles finally did it for the first time ever. They won the Super Bowl against the Patriots, 41-33. I still remember my maternal family watching this game at my Uncle Matt's house. I didn't care much about football or sports in general back then. I was at their house, but I left early and went to my dad's because I knew how wild it was going to be in the house if the Eagles won, and I would get overwhelmed with it. I had school the next day anyways. I put the game on in my room, but I fell asleep before the end. Then I found out in the morning they won when I looked up the score. Although I didn't care that much myself, I still felt excited for my family. And they told me they went absolutely nuts when they won, which didn't surprise me in the slightest. My mom got so excited that she literally picked up my stepdad John. A few years later, when I cared a little more, I watched what it looked like at the end of the game when they won, and I got the chills from it. We should have won again in the 2022 season, but sadly, we lost the Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs by just 3 points, 38-35. But I still have faith that we'll win it again someday. Winning that game in 2017 brought the Eagles from 19th place all the way to 7th place. Isn't that awesome? A lot of people outside of Philly thought that a Super Bowl win from the Eagles would never happen. This was a shock for America in general, and it didn't even feel real. Before moving on, I have just one more thing to add.
EAGLES, Eagles!
Of course, the New England Patriots make a third Super Bowl appearance in a row, and this time they won, making it the third time they managed to win in that decade. It wasn't something completely insane like the previous 2 times they won, but the thing that was crazy was how low the score was. It was 13-3, which means the Rams didn't even score a touchdown, just 1 field goal. For that reason, a lot of people agree that it was the most uninteresting Super Bowl. They did something for the halftime show at the Super Bowl that triggered many people. They were going to play Sweet Victory, which is a popular song from SpongeBob that I mentioned before was played at their Super Bowl in the episode Band Geeks in one of my previous videos. However, they cut it off after 5 seconds in the real Super Bowl so the rapper Travis Scott could perform. I get that he's popular and his fans would like to see him perform, but that's no excuse to take away something that many people are looking forward to. A lot of people were upset because of that. So anyways, the Patriots now have more points than the Seahawks at number 2 and the Packers at number 3 put together. That just shows what a legend Tom Brady was. Whether you like him or not, you've got to admit that he was one heck of a quarterback. As far as the changes in places though, not much has changed other than the Eagles moving up 1 place to 6 for making it to the divisional round, which is obviously good for us Philly fans. Finally, there was the 2019 season, and we've got another team to win the Super Bowl who didn't get a chance to win in the 2010s decade before, which was the Chiefs. Now, they're like what the Patriots used to be. As you can see down below, they beat the San Francisco 49ers that season, and they both played again in the Super Bowl 4 years later. And guess who won? The Chiefs, of course. And the year before that was the year they beat the Eagles, like I already mentioned. That's not even mentioning the fact that they made it to the Super Bowl in the 2020 season, even though they lost that one to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they became AFC champions 4 times in 5 years and became Super Bowl champions for 3 of them. I think Patrick Mahomes is like the new Tom Brady now. This season, as I'm recording this video, the Chiefs are 9-0, making them the only team to still be unbeaten this season. Anyways, that wraps things up for the 2010s. I will now show the final ranking and score for every team. Starting with the top 8, of course, we've got the New England Patriots at number 1 by a landslide with 158 points. The Seattle Seahawks and Green Bay Packers remain at number 2 and number 3 with 71 and 70 points respectively. The Denver Broncos are at number 4 with 62. The Baltimore Ravens are at number 5 with 56. The Kansas City Chiefs moved all the way up to number 6 at 55 points with their Super Bowl win. Number 7 is the 49ers with 49 points. 49ers? 49 points? Coincidence? I think not. Trust me, I did not do that on purpose. And then the Philadelphia Eagles are number 8 with 43 points. With there being 32 teams in the NFL, that's pretty good and I'll take it. The Pittsburgh Steelers are at number 9 with 40 points. So that's good for my grandfather that his team still made the top 10. The Falcons and the Giants are technically tied at number 10 with 36 points. But I put the Falcons at 10 and the Giants at 11 because I feel genuinely sorry for the Falcons after that heartbreaking Super Bowl loss that they should have won. Sorry, Giants fans. And the rest of the leaderboard is visibly there for you to see. If you haven't noticed before, the Rams moved from St. Louis to Los Angeles during the decade, and the Chargers also moved from San Diego to LA. Here is 17 through 24. You may be wondering why I wrote 16 instead of 17 next to the Minnesota Vikings. It's because they actually tied at 16th with the Texans at 17 points. However, you may have noticed that I put the Arizona Cardinals at 20 and the Dallas Cowboys at 21, even though they both got 12 points. Well, it's simply because Dallas sucks. That's why. I apologize to the normal Dallas fans in Texas who aren't deranged fans like a lot of the other ones are. And you know, I'm from around Philly, so I'm supposed to say that they suck. However, for the past 8 years, I've been playing around with my family by telling them that I'm a Cowboys fan and that I hate the Eagles, just to get a reaction out of them. I always like seeing the looks on their faces every time I say that. Now, here's the 8 teams that really couldn't pull it together in the 2010s. There was a 3-way tie at 2 points, and then the poor Cleveland Browns ended up in dead last place, being the only team with 0 points. They even had a season where they lost all 16 games, and that was the 2017 season. Hopefully, they'll work things out someday. It's also a bummer for the Buccaneers, because as I said earlier, they became Super Bowl winners the next year. They would have been at 34 points and at 12th place versus just 2 and at a 29th place tie if they won the year before. However, the Detroit Lions are noticeably doing a lot better this decade. Before I end this video, I wanted to end it off by showing the highest ranking team from each division with a reminder of what place they were in overall. And yes, the Eagles won the division for the 2010s decade, and it wouldn't have happened if they didn't win that Super Bowl. The Patriots and the Seahawks, however, became the champions of their entire conferences for the decade. What's interesting is that they actually played together in the Super Bowl in the 2014 season, in case you forgot. The one with that infamous ending that I already talked about. And the Broncos, Ravens, Colts, Packers, and Falcons also won their division for the decade. And that's it for today's video. I enjoyed the making of it, and in case you're wondering, I came up with the point system from my imagination. Anyways, what really got me into Major League Sports recently was that my 6-year-old cousin was teaching me all of the rules of baseball while we were playing with the wiffle balls outside. And that made me eventually have an interest in watching the Philadelphia Phillies play since the beginning of August, since I knew all of the rules. Then I watched almost every one of their games for the rest of the season. I still put their games on in my room before that, but I didn't thoroughly watch them before. The day before the first Eagles game, I wanted my mom and stepdad to teach me about football so I could get into that sport as well and understand all the Eagles games and watch it with them. They had a good first half of the season, as they're 7-2 right now, but hopefully they can keep it together for the second half. I hope all of you who watch the NFL like today's video. Bye, guys.